She's funny, she's smart, she craves chocolate every day, and she is the Greek goddess of comedy. Here is your host, Ellen Karis.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Karis's Comedy Corner. My name is Ellen Karis, and you are listening to the guest edition of Karis's Comedy Corner. I am very, very excited because I have two guests today. One who I've known for a very, very long time, and he's doing remarkable things in the comedy world. But before we get into that, I got to thank our sponsors. Our first sponsor is Baywalk Marketing. Go to their website, baywalk.net, for all of your advertising and marketing needs. They can help you with any type of a flyer. They can help you analyze the demographics of your business. They are also experts in the Greek community. Go to their website, hollywoodgreeks.com, for all of your Greek entertainment needs, or HellenicFestivals.org to find out where there is a Greek festival near you. I promise you in 2021, you will be eating a souvlaki from a Greek festival. HollywoodGreeks.com is for festival information. Baywalk Marketing is the company. Baywalk.net is the website. Our other sponsor is SelectFlex. What is it? It's an orthotic. What's an orthotic? It's also called an insert. You put it in your shoe. Why do you need that? Because your entire body needs it. Your hips, your back, your shins, your knees, your ankles, your entire alignment. It starts from the foot. It gives you support. And what is so fascinating about these orthotics is there is a geometric beam in the arch, so you can make the arch firm, or extra firm, depending on what your needs are. I never work out without these in my sneakers. I have them in all of my shoes. They're great in Uggs because Uggs have no support. Go to their website, selectflex.com, SELECTFLEX.com. They have a 30-second video. And for Karis Comedy Corner listeners, there is a discount, a 25% discount, if you type in the code FAMILY25, FAMILY 25, because I feel like you, my audience, are like my family, except I don't fight with you as much. So go to their website, selectflex.com, and we thank them for their support. Get it? Support? All right. I know. I got to work on that joke. Okay. So I'm very excited. I have two gentlemen on the show today. One I've known for a very, very long time, and one I just met 5 minutes ago when we got on. Soul Joel, as he is known. Joel Richardson is his real name, but I don't know if anybody calls him that anymore, unless he is boarding a plane, I would imagine. Other than that, he's known as Soul Joel, which is great to have a moniker. It worked out for Madonna and Cher and all those other people. And also we have and Soul is Soul. See, I was going to call you Soul. Joel is a comedian, producer, comedy producer extraordinaire. We're going to get into all of that. And with him is Brendan Donegan. Donegan, actually, I have a family member that's a Donegan, so you think I would remember that, is a comedian starting out, very, very funny, helped Joel with a documentary. I'm going to keep calling you Soul. Kept, and I've known you for like 20 years, helped Joel with his document. You know, we don't edit this, right? With his documentary that talks about sort of the evolution of this venue that he created out of literally nothing. We're going to get to all that. So please welcome my guests, Joel Richardson, Soul Joel, and Brendan Donegan. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much for having us. We'll edit this all in post.
Right. No, I like to leave the mistakes in just to show how bad I am at everything, pretty much. And Brendan and I were talking before we got on. We were saying we were talking about having day jobs, and I quit mine 13 years ago. I was an accountant, CPA, MBA in finance, whatever. So basically, I know a lot about a lot of things. I just don't do anything well. I strive for a little less than mediocrity, and that's working out for me well.
Absolutely. Well, it's funny because we've known each other for so long. I was 1 year behind you. In May, it'll be 12 years that I left corporate America. So we're like neck and neck, right behind each other.
So I'm going to just start this right off the bat. Dude, I am so proud of you. I swear to God, I mean this from the bottom of my heart, all sincerity, no bullshit. I remember you from pretty much comedy-wise, day one, Tommy Koenig, who was our comedy teacher, guru, coach. And Tommy had put together this great, what he called a comic studio. He's just amazing. We've had Tommy actually on the show. To be able to interview him was incredible.
He's great.
He started out with Seinfeld, he sitcoms, all of that. But I remember you starting out. I remember Tommy being very enthusiastic about you. He's like, this guy Joel, we have this new comic, young kid. He's really a hustler. He's putting on shows, and I'm like, well, how long has he been doing that? Like 2 days. He's doing shows in Staten Island. I just like, really. And I got to meet you. You were really nice, and we did a few shows together. And then it really didn't feel like it was that much longer after, it was a couple of years, and you really just like, I started getting emails about Soul Joel Productions, and you're putting on all these shows, and it's, people don't understand. It is very hard to put on a show, and I don't mean hard like, but you're doing a bypass, meaning hard into just making sure that everything is aligned so everything can go well. So the fact that you got into that very quickly, and I'll let you talk for a second. I have to just say, I was always impressed with you. Not only were you very funny, but and this is what I remember, you were in sales. And I remember, and it was like Tommy and I having a conversation, like he was in sales, he knows how to market, because it's very much about marketing, the business end of it. So I just had to say that at the top.
Back then I was doing I was doing sales, pharmaceutical sales in Bay Ridge, from Bay Ridge to Bensonhurst to Park Slope. And back then I was going to do a show where anywhere that would have us, they said they want to do a show, whether it was a Thursday or a Friday or Saturday. Didn't necessarily have to be a good setup for comedy. I just did the show and then try to get as many people as I could. But now it's like, I've been through all that training, and after 15 years of being in the business, now I know what works. But Brendan got all this like documented, and he interviewed comics, and some of them were like, I wouldn't be surprised if Joel started the pandemic. Like, we've been pandemic training for 15 years. Like, my sister even said, she's like, I didn't quit my day job in sales to come this far, cash out my 401k just to give up. I had two choices: keep going or give up. And we put, you and I did a hallway in Bay Ridge. It was called the Wicked Monk, and it was just a narrow and a great stage. But then at the setup itself, you either had to look left or look right, and it was just a bad setup. But now I know all those things and knew what comedy had to be. Outside wasn't the most ideal, but it was the most social distance and safe, and people needed this laughter now more than ever.
So let's just kind of go back. So what made
that was a lot. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. So what made you get into comedy to begin with? What was it? You're in pharmaceutical sales. So what happened?
Just going back to go to school to get my MBA. I either, whether it was a sales meeting in pharmaceutical sales or going to school to get my MBA, I love just making people laugh, whether it was at dinner or whatever. And they just urged me to go on stage one night. And then from that first open mic, I just never wanted to stop.
So interesting enough, you and I both have an MBA. Not a lot of comics have an MBA. I think we can brag about that.
Sure.
But also, you and I did it as adults, as opposed to some of these people doing it sort of like right out of college or in college. I mean, Brendan here looks incredibly young. I'm assuming that you started out when? This is something you always wanted to do?
How old do you think I am, Ellen? I'm trying to get a ballpark.
Well, in talking to you, you are mature. So you're probably older than, but if I didn't know and I just looked at you, I would say 22.
All right. Well, I still got it. I'm 28, but I started.
I'm sorry. We're gonna have to end this right now. You're just,
yeah.
That's not that. My demographic is much younger than that.
I started when I was a couple years out of college at 24, and I met Joel right away. And Joel has pretty much been managing me since day one, since I started. So I just kind of luckily met Joel right off the bat when I started. But I started around 24. So a couple years out of school.
So, and I mean, you know, you've got some jobs, whatnot, but that's not your focus. As opposed to like Joel and I got entrenched, you know, we signed up for the 401k and we had the health insurance and all that other kind of stuff that we were going through levels. I mean, you're just sort of doing things until you can really just pull the trigger entirely.
Well, so I've been with the same company since I graduated, but it's funny now. I'm like, I mean, you know, basically consistently taking demotions so that I can get more entrenched into comedy. They're like, what do you want to do? I'm like, just leave me alone more so I could do comedy more. They're like, where do you see yourself? And I'm like, just, you know,
Not
just
here.
yeah. Hopefully not doing this. That my goal is to do so well in comedy I don't have to work here anymore,
Right.
which is not great. But so I'm like kind of getting through that right now, where it's kind of cool, you know, talking with you guys where, you know, you guys left and, you know, have been doing comedy, and I'm kind of at that tipping point right now where I'm hopefully getting ready to, hopefully they don't watch this, getting ready to leave or get fired.
Well, you'll tell me the name of the company and we'll block them. No, but you know what? For me also, I remember when I was at that point, I said, I never want to look back and say I didn't try. And that was that was sort of always in my mind. But Joel, you started doing comedy. Mm-hmm. You went to producing so quickly. Yep. And obviously your sales background, but there must have been something else about sort of like controlling your own destiny. What was it like? What was that?
So it was essentially signing up for all these bringer shows in order to create my own stage time. And there was a DJ like promoter in New Jersey that canceled a show at 2:00 in the afternoon when the show was at 8, and I had like 30 people coming, half of which like I connected with on MySpace and Facebook at the time. You know, it's just crazy, and I didn't have their phone numbers, so it wasn't my fault, but I felt totally responsible. And just he gave me a wishy-washy answer. Like one of the owners signed off on it, but the other owner didn't, so they had to cancel the show. I pretty much assumed that my 30 people were probably the only people that were going to be at the show. So we just canceled it. And from there on in, I was always like the friend that organized like the high school reunions or like bachelor parties, whatever the weekend was, I like organized it. So I kind of just did that and started organizing my own comedy shows. And Giannis, another fellow Greek comedian, called it the Soul Joel Comedy Tour. So family tour. So I used to set up shows wherever I had family, South Jersey and Pittsburgh. But you know, within 10 years, I produced shows in 21 different states, just trying to produce. And then finally, after 14 years, I opened up my own brick and mortar comedy club. We opened up November 1st, 2019, 1 day a week. By the end of February 2020, we were open 5 days a week. We organically grew to being 1 day to 5 days in 4 months. Literally 2 weeks later, shut down like everybody else. It's crazy. So
you know, I always equated you with Staten Island, but you're not from Staten Island, are you?
No. So I was born in Pittsburgh. I grew up in South Jersey. Then I went to college in Staten Island. That's where I got my undergrad and my MBA. Okay. And I lived there for 15 years. I just moved away from there 7 years ago, but I've lived there more than anywhere else.
So to fast forward, so you've mastered this producing, and you're also performing. So and those are really two separate jobs. And again, I want everybody to understand that when you are on the show and producing it, it is like, it's not twice the stress, it's like 100 times the stress. So you took all this on. So what made you decide to get this space? And let's talk about where it's in Royerstown, Pennsylvania.
Royersford, Pennsylvania. Actually, we were at Valley Forge Casino for 7 years, and they wanted to move me from Fridays to Thursdays. And literally the next day, the town council here in Royersford recruited me to be a part of the revitalization and open up my own space. So I just took that as like a sign from the universe that it was time to move on. And before you know it, they introduced us to our landlord now, Rick Lewis. And thankfully for him, we opened up our space. It's right on the Schuylkill River. And he has this lot right next to our outdoor space where July 3rd, he was like, just open up this outdoor space. You have the land, you might as well, because we can't do shows inside. And it just kept evolving over there. And that's when, Brendan decided to document everything and kind of, make something of it. So it's remembered.
So you and Brendan and your team created this fantastic documentary that I just got to watch. And thank you for sending me the link. It was, first of all, it's hilarious. It's comedy it's a comedy show. Like, I want to ask you exactly where you're going with the documentary, but people need to pay for this because that is like pure entertainment. I was laughing so hard. You documented your story, and you talked about the brick and mortar venue, the attic, as Chris Roach was saying it. And I also felt really great that I knew pretty much most of the people that were in that.
Right.
And the interviews are very, very funny, and they're very, very insightful. And they really also, it gives you a glimpse, not just obviously of your story, your very successful story and your story of endurance, but it also was a great profile on a lot of the comics and the comedy business itself. Everybody that you interviewed, Brendan, I mean, you did a great job. Everybody that you interviewed and all the questions that you asked were really gave everybody a glimpse of the comedy business side of it, and being funny at the same time. So how was that? I mean, that's a new skill set for you to be able to interview people like that.
Yeah, it was different. And that I'm glad that, that was a takeaway, just because that's really what I wanted to kind of show, like you guys had talked about. There's so much when you're producing a show, there's so much that goes into it that a lot of people don't really, I think, realize some of the behind the scenes stuff that goes on, especially when you are dealing with something like a pandemic and trying to create an outdoor venue. Like, there was just so much crazy shit that kept happening that, talking with Joel, we're like, we got to document this. And luckily we had all of this footage from a couple of years prior, because, we had been doing, and we still do from time to time, like Joel's setting up these crazy road gigs for us left and right. We're in New Jersey, we're in Pennsylvania, we're in New York, we're doing gigs all over the road. So that's how I started with Joel on the road, because Joel had all of his road gigs, and then he would have me go host while he was doing another show. He had like 5 different venues. So luckily we were planning a couple of years ago with Dan Callahan, who's another comedian who's in the documentary, and he's part of Joel's team now as well. But we were planning on shooting something a couple of years ago with those road gigs, but just never really figured out what to do with it. But luckily we had all this old footage that kind of chronologically showed, what we used to do before we opened the club. So it kind of worked out great. And then, we interviewed everybody and just kind of talked to them about their history of working with Joel, because Joel's also known all these guys for, 15, 20 years from when he started, and they have the same stories that I do of doing these road gigs. So it was just kind of cool to talk with them about their experience, doing road gigs, how they've stayed alive during the pandemic, what their experience has been like most recently doing these gigs. But luckily we had a lot of footage from the past that we before just didn't know what to do with. And then it just kind of worked out that it was perfect for including it in this documentary.
I love the way everybody talked about all the travel in the car, because people don't understand, you have to really love mini mart coffee to be a comedian, okay? Because you stop at rest stops and there's nothing fancy for miles. It's schlepping. People are like, what's the hardest part? I go, no. The stage is the easy part. It's everything else, the schlepping and all of that. That's the getting people to come, the promoting, all of that. Like, that is so hard. I'm gonna, right here on Karis Comedy Corner, I am going to dub Soul Joel the Jeff Bezos of comedy. Because the story of Jeff Bezos is that he decided to he had this idea and he packed boxes in his garage And that was the first Amazon, was out of his garage. And you've emulated, and I certainly hope it pays in dividends for you, like it did Jeff Bezos. You have emulated that sort of like that small seed into putting on this. You've kept comedy alive when it's like nobody wanted to go out on their porch, let alone go to a comedy show. And you did it in a very obscure place, to the point where you have, and it's not like you, and nothing against local comics, obviously, but the people that come to been on your stage, Louis C.K., Nikki Glazer, Michelle Wolf, Giannis Pappas, you know, and then of course we need to of course talk about the Jay Okerson incident, which of course you do very well, because it was funny as I was watching. I go, I hope they're going to talk about that, because that whole thing fascinated me and disgusted me at the same time. Of course, you know, as a comic, and I don't know Jay that well. I know his ex-wife, but I remember like right away texting her, and she said, you know, he's fine and this and that, and you know, like, please tell me.
He was like, who gives a shit?
Right. No, well, they have a daughter together, so I think she wants him to, you know, to be okay. But the way that you were able to do this, let me tell you something. I'm on a lot of email lists, as we all are. I was getting emails from like Eastville Comedy Club. You know, we're having a fundraiser for our wait staff. You know, another comment, we're hoping to be open. You were the only, and I get a lot of emails. You were the only one that I got emails from, like, we're doing a show. It's like, how is this happening in Pennsylvania?
Yeah,
I mean, it's really amazing.
I had a comic email me and goes, you know, these are live shows, right? And I had to be like, I don't know what you're talking, like, yeah, of course I know, I'm promoting them, the tickets are live. Like, I don't know if you were against it or felt it was unsafe, but yeah, tickets are on sale.
So I loved also in the documentary, you have your sister. Now I remember it came back to me. I met your sister. I think I definitely came, because I remember your family was there.
Yeah.
And I commend you. I have two sisters. I've been doing this 20 years. I think they've come to one show. As a matter of fact, they still think I'm an accountant, but one of them just asked me how tax season was going. So, but anyway, that's a whole nother story. So the fact that you have this wonderful sibling, because there's nothing like trusting family, because it is about trust, and there's money involved, and sometimes there's cash involved, and you know, you need somebody that you know is not going to screw you and is going to do right by you, and it's got their heart into it. Your sister's amazing. I mean, she's sort of like your business partner in all this and putting things together. Talk about it is in the documentary, but if you could just talk, I want everybody to know, when you have this open lot, so you decide to, you know, you can't do anything indoors. You move the comedy show outside. Your sister looks at it, has this idea, look, it's there, goes to Home Depot, and then take it from there.
Yeah, well, so she is kind of like the creative side of this, where like I have an idea, I know how to sell it, I know how to market it, but she comes up with the ways to like beautify, like bring it to life. So she thought that we would put the lot, and I was fine with it. She was like, oh, let's put sand down. And we ended up, our landlord matched it, you know, because we're in entertainment. They don't have a 401k match program, but he matched our sand. So we did 100 tons of sand, and yeah, he did 100 tons. It ended up being 9 triaxle loads, like you see a tractor trailer on the road, 9 of those. And it's a huge area. And yeah, so she came up with that. But the best part is that Brendan interviewed all these people. And after interviewing, he was like, okay, I'm going to put this here and I'm going to sprinkle. And it did a good job of like telling the story through different people. But we ended up with a hurricane season. The Northeast gets all that rain. And we ended up with a torrential downpour of rain one day. And Giannis ended up being there the next day. And so she went to get a ton of sand and realized even though she has a Traverse, she can't put all that sand in her car, even though it's a huge vehicle. So she can only take half of it. So she sees a guy, she waits outside for this guy in a truck outside of Home Depot and said, hey, do you need some good karma? He's like, yeah, I'm having a crappy day. He goes, take this, gives him the address and goes, bring this sand to Soul Joel's Comedy Club. And he was like, all right. And then she shows up. I'm like, well, where's the rest of the sand? He goes, oh, the guy will be here in 5 minutes. She just all willy-nilly just trusted some guy and Brendan just chopped all that up, and it just ended up being just a great story. And Giannis showed up in his Tesla going, you still trying to do comedy in the apocalypse? I'm like, Giannis, I want to go punch you right through the window. But, we've known each other for forever. So it's great.
You know what? We all kind of know each other forever. At this point, we're into the forever stage. And Brendan, you're going to trust me, you're going to get there. You're going to be like, that was 20 years ago? Oh, oh, it's going to freak you out. Okay, so your sister, in my viewpoint, is creative. And also, I'm glad you have a woman on your staff because she brings that the alpha, the female aspect of it.
No,
too.
she's sometimes more alpha. She's more alpha than I am sometimes. I think you nailed it.
Right. But that was, to have that other side of the brain working and part of a different part of her personality working just is great. So, I mean, that's just you and your sister. That's, I think, its own documentary, and that relationship and how that works, I think, is incredibly amazing. But in the documentary, the stories that the guys tell, Joe List tells this story of when he brought Louis C.K. And again, I want people to watch it, so I don't want to say the whole thing, but I thought it was incredible. But one of the stories that made the paper, and they always say, there's no such thing as bad publicity, and thank God it all worked out well, was that, as I mentioned before, so Big J Okerson, fantastic comedian. I love him. He's hilarious. And a crowd work master. I mean, which is ironic in that the person in the audience went to taunt, of all people, Big J. Of all people.
And here's the backstory that we didn't even talk about in the documentary, was that the parents, the mom and the dad and the stepmom, they both have kids through previous marriage. She bought the 17-day pass to this comedy festival. She was there every night. The husband was there half the time, and they brought this particular night. They ended up bringing their kids to that night, and the son, he was a porn producer from LA, and the daughter was from Reading, and they just walked in with this kind of like cocky attitude, and they didn't really know. Yeah. Go ahead, Brendan.
I was just saying, no pun intended. You said,
oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Very funny.
Yeah. No. And so Luis Gomez is on the show. And by the way, Jay wasn't even supposed to be on that show. It was supposed to be Dave Smith and Lewis, and then Dave Smith had a death in the family canceled 2 days before. Big J gets added to the show. And Lewis is on stage talking about their podcast election that's coming up with Shane Gillis and Dan Soder and Ari Shaffir. And the sister goes, F this place, fuck Pennsylvania, fuck Trump, everyone's racist. The whole crowd, there was like 125 people. They just looked at her like, what are you talking? They're not talking about real politics. They're talking about comedians. So I go over to Big J and I was like, listen, I want to throw her out. He goes, no, I need her. I want to talk about her. So fast forward, he ends up going on stage and going, I just like the fact that she didn't say fuck Royersford. She didn't say fuck Montgomery County. She said fuck all of Pennsylvania. And he goes, sweetie, where are you from? She goes, who, me? And he goes, how do you not know I was talking about you for the last 5 minutes? And some guy starts making fun of her, and the brother goes in the back, and he starts getting in like a verbal disagreement with this audience member. And I go up and I just grab him by the shoulder and I go, I need you to stop. He goes, oh, you're going to fuck me up. I go, no, I'm the owner. I want you to stop. You've now been warned, or else I'm going to have you removed. And he goes, listen, I'm a porn producer from LA. Why don't I give you guys, you and your whole team, free porn? I'm like,
wait, I love the fact that he's bragging about his credentials, but okay, guys.
But also free porn. It's called the internet. Like, what is it? Is this 1992 and you're going to give us like videotapes from your trunk? Yeah. I don't even understand. So
literally Boogie Nights.
Yeah. So 30 minutes later, the show is literally, and we had a guest spot that night too. So the show should have been over. We're literally 2 minutes away from an ending. Jay's about to wrap up. He's on his last joke, and he goes, get her out of here. And so the mom and the stepmom, because it's something out of Maury Povich, they're both there. They start escorting the daughter out, and the crowd starts cheering, like, finally. Well, I start walking her out, and all of a sudden I hear behind me the brother, because the crowd was cheering, felt like he had to go, defend his sister, and goes up to the stage to argue with Jay. I can't get there fast. I'm probably like a football field away. And I start, running as fast as I can. And all of a sudden, before I get there, I just see he grabs Jay's ankle and pulls him off. But if you watch the video, Lewis was coming from the back. So it looked like he was attacking him, but he was just flying off the top rope like Jimmy flies snooker in wrestling, and just rips him off. And then it was mayhem from there.
Okay, so he grabs Jay Okerson's ankles. Jay's a huge, huge guy. And I mean that in a sexy way. And Luis Gomez is like a black belt. Like, how stupid can you be? Like, it's incredible. So I read it on page 6. And and of course they mentioned you, and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe all this is happening.
They called me, and I thought it said Bermuda, and the guy has a British accent. So I think it's a prank phone call. So I give the interview, but I'm like, oh, that's not real. And an hour later, people are like, you're on the front page of page 6. I was like, oh boy. It just ended up being way bigger than I ever imagined. Yeah, I made it. Yeah.
That's it. That is the maha. That is the late night of newspapers. I mean, but just for a second, to be serious, we go up there, Brendan, you know that, right? You go up there, you trust everybody, you trust nobody's going to do anything to you. I mean, verbally is one thing, but to physically attack you, I mean, that was scary. And the way that, I mean, it was really dirty too. It wasn't like he waited till Jay got off stage and went over to him. I mean, I know that's happened. So you were there also, Brendan, right?
I actually wasn't there that night.
Oh, okay.
But I had, everybody had gotten a call. Like, dude, I actually had friends who were at that show, and they called me. They're like, "You're not going to believe what just happened at your boy, Joel's." I was like, "What? It was a crazy show." Because I mean, Big J and their whole, the whole podcast is called the Legion of Skanks. It's a crazy fan atmosphere. So you just assume it's going to be a wild show, which is also crazy that these people would go to a comedy show called, basically called the Legion of Skanks, thinking like they're not going to hear something offensive. But my friends called me and told me, they're like, "Yeah, you're not going to believe what happened." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm sure it was crazy." And they're like, "No, like this guy ripped Big J off stage." I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And then you just heard about it everywhere. Like Barstool Sports the next day had like a thing on the internet about it. I mean, it got brought up on Joe Rogan. All of these, page 6, obviously, like you guys just mentioned. And next thing you know, everybody was talking about the club, and they're like, "Where was this at?" Soul Joel's in Royersford, Pennsylvania. And that kind of blew this thing up. I mean, Mark Norman, when I was talking with him, he actually said, he was like, sometimes a crazy incident like that, breaks a thing, like Bill Burr in Philly, Jim Jeffries getting punched in the face on stage. Like, it was horrible. Thank God Jay was okay. But then when everyone started to hear about this story, it kind of put the club on the map a little bit.
Right.
Yeah,
like I said, I'm glad he had a happy ending,
Right.
But on the flip side, had Jay, tumbled the wrong way or something, I mean,
He could have hit his head on the stage.
I have chills talking about it right now, so
Yeah.
that is so horrible. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I was going to add to that our general manager, Joey St. John, his girlfriend, she's a comedy fan, but, not more than anybody else. And within 15 minutes, she texted Joey. She was at home and she goes, "Are you okay?" And he was like, how do you know about it? She goes, "Oh, everybody's talking about it on Instagram right now." And I was like, oh man, I was like, for her to contact us about this, I'm like, this is going to be bigger than we ever imagined. And it was like lightning striking 3 times in 72 hours. Cause the next day we were already in talks of booking Jim Brewer. And so the next day the Page Six comes out and all the other press we just talked about. We announced Jim Brewer was coming to town, and then Sunday we had Dave Attell for 2 sold-out shows to end this festival. So it was like boom, 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 and then it was off to the races. We had more people talking about us in 14 hours than I had in 14 years of being in this business. It was just just luck and opportunity. Just keep working hard, and everything just kept,
Well, sir, I mean,
positive
that
vibes.
wasn't, I mean, that was not planned at all, and it was not horrible, and, you know, you never would have, that's something that she did, somebody evil. And
Yeah.
what happened? Was there any retribution afterwards? Or?
Oh yeah, the court dates in 3 weeks. So I'll let you know.
Oh, the saga. Oh, good. The saga continues. Well,
No,
he needs to get, but no, I mean, there has to be a punishment. I mean, you just can't do that.
Well, yeah, and I don't know if Brendan and I sat there for a day or a week or a month or a year, if we would plan a publicity stunt that it could work out that well. Like you said, Jay's not hurt, and everything ended up working out. But I didn't even know about this word until it happened, but he got doxxed. And so his Instagram, and while he was in the holding cell overnight, his Instagram and his Facebook and his website got flooded. But I'm like, it's called the Legion of Skanks. It's not called 3 Men and a Baby.
Right.
Like, you messed with the wrong group. Like, it's unreal. And one of the fans brought mace and maced the dad and him. And I'm not like that. That was probably the best thing that ever happened to us, because the dad with mace in his eyes ended up yelling at his son and going, "Not again, not again." I'm like, "Not again,
Yeah,
not
man,
again."
how many shows? Yeah. Jesus Christ.
Oh
That-
my God.
Bad.
Oh,
He
that
got
is-
arrested though too. They called the police, and then they did arrest the guy that night, which is, you know, why the court case is coming up. But he was arrested that night, thank God, because he was trying to get away too. And you know, luckily the cops were there pretty quickly. And I think at first it sounded like they didn't really know, you know, well, he said, she said sort of thing. He said whatever. But then they're like, "What do you talk? We have video footage. There's 150 people here that like can that are witnesses."
Right.
And then I think they quickly realized that they had to. And then he tried to like fight one of the police officers. This guy.
Well, aside from the litany of abuses that he did, I'm going to go on record and say that because he's in the porn business, he's also going to go to jail for tax evasion. I'm just putting that out. That is definitely going to happen.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
I'm sure he's got multiple lawsuits.
Yeah, definitely. So what is the plan? I mean, I still can't get over that you've created this outdoor atmosphere, making it cool to go out, and you made it a nice atmosphere. You've got comics. I can't even imagine the emails that you get from comics. And when I mean comics, I mean, you know, people that probably heard about you that have 2 minutes of experience that are, you know, that are actually calling for avails. I mean, that's the one thing, there's no shortage. But I mean, you get like top notch people, great shows. You put together quality shows. They're getting their money's worth and then some. I mean, do you have like an empire plan? Do you want to take this to the West Coast? Like, you're managing Brendan. I'm assuming, are you managing other people? Some other
Yeah,
people?
so we have a small roster of comics that we're managing, and we have a whole circuit that we're going to get back to normal. Before this whole shutdown, I had probably, like Brendan said, about 10 to 12 rooms on a monthly basis that we would do, and we had comics, you know, touring the whole country. So we eventually are going to open up more venues, comedy clubs and stuff like that. But for now, we want to get a really big, you know, we have our outdoor space. We made it through the winter. We didn't make money in November, December, and January for 3 months, but we kept it from all the money that we made over the summer, and we just paid it forward, and we raised money through our patrons and our sponsors. We raised $27,000 in 2 weeks through our, you know, through those, and it got us through those 3 months. So now that we made it through the winter, we're going to keep going outside. Now that the weather's warmer, we're going to keep going.
Right.
So-
Well, I mean, it's going to be spectacular. Like you were doing well in a squeeze and in a tough time. And now that you've sort of worked out all the kinks with the land and the stage and all that, it'll be for you this summer will be seamless because you've already set it up. And we're starting to go indoors, as you know, in New York, April 2nd, which is tomorrow night. They're starting to open up 25% capacity. I mean, what's happened in this city, comedy wise, everything wise, every business wise, has been disgusting. Even, the restaurants and what they've done. And I mean, I've said my opinion and I don't really care. It's way too much. I mean, I know pandemic, I get it, virus, I get it. Of course, people died, horrible, all of that. But here to me, and I'm a New Yorker native, it went to the way extreme. And from an economic perspective, I don't know how we're going to bounce back from this.
Yeah, even when they open up, they're only open at 1/3%. Like I think Caroline's still at one of the biggest comedy clubs in Manhattan is not even opening. Like I can't believe that it's only 1/3% after all this time. Over a year.
Right. I don't know what. It's again, I'll go off on a tangent of what I think, but
sorry to bring the room down.
No, it's just not business friendly. And it's like, I don't understand how they thought people were going to survive. I mean, I commend you so much for, again, thinking outside the box and going for it and doing it. And also, let me compliment you too. You allowed comics to earn income as well. I mean, it is like, slim pickings, and it's really, it's really hard. So you kept a lot of people employed.
Yeah. And we hope they all remember that. No, absolutely. Even one of the guys like Michael Rappaport came down and, I woke up, I didn't know any media he was doing. He did the CBS morning show and he did Preston and Steve, which is a big radio show in Philadelphia, probably the biggest morning show. And I thanked him for everything he did. And he turns to me and goes, "I'm sorry I didn't do more. Next time I come back, I'm doing more." And I'm like, he could have taken this check, cashed it, and never talked to me again. Joel Richardson, who, but like just the appreciation that someone at his level felt for this, just to be able to earn a living, because he's not shooting movies. He's not shooting. Yeah. Okay. He might have saved his money, but he's still not able to earn a living doing new stuff. So it was nice for someone like him to say that.
Oh, well, okay. Well, now he's a mention in my book. Okay, that's good. He's also a big Housewives fan. He's always on Andy Cohen's show. They're like buddies. So and that guy, everything he touches turns to gold. So who knows?
He was one of the guys. He was one of the guys over the pandemic that people asked me. He was the biggest sweetheart, where he has this online persona. Like he couldn't have been nicer. Easiest to work with.
Are you thinking of doing anything else in the venue space other than comedy, or music, or?
Yeah, so we've had a lot of
improv, something like that.
Yeah, and all that. That's why we called it Soul Joel's Comedy Club and Lounge. And over the pandemic, Brendan actually documented this as well, that we had 200 acts, including musicians and comedians last year. And we continue to do more of that because there's not live music either right now. So people have liked that blend, and we're going to do all kind of different festivals over the summer. And we've partnered with local restaurants, and they've all helped us. And the whole community has really embraced everything that we're doing.
And you got sponsorship. And let me just, again, emphasize how hard it is to get sponsorship. Even though you say, "Oh, we'll put your banner and whatnot," especially for comedy. I don't know. There's always there's something about a hesitation with comedy. And there's nothing like live comedy. I can't say it enough. And when people go Netflix and this, great, fantastic. I am all for the comics. But there's still nothing like a live show and having that experience.
And we didn't solicit any of the sponsors. They all came to us. So it was, we couldn't have been luckier.
Incredible. Boy, I want to move there. I don't even know where it is, but it's such
population, 4,500 people. We had, I can't tell you, probably whatever, but due to COVID, but 5 times more than that attend our shows from July till now.
Well, here's some more good news for you. Certainly, people in bad news for us here in the city. A lot of people have moved out, and they've gone to places like Pennsylvania, and some upstate, but some people also. And Joel, you'll get this because you are a business person, and you think you're probably one of the few comics I can talk taxes to, because you get it and business, and about net income and how much taxes play in a business. And New York State is become so tax averse. It's become so difficult for businesses to thrive here, and in the comedy business, like, you were so smart to go out there as opposed to try to create something here, between the liquor license, between just the cost of doing business, between all of the fees and taxes. And you took it to a place where you can, at least, especially in the beginning, when you're really just starting up, you can make some money. So are you looking, like, just kind of back to my original question, are you looking to create any more sort of brick and mortar, or you're just going to kind of stick to the home base and then do a tour where you go to different venues?
Yeah, for now, we're just going to stick with the one brick and mortar. I mean, we do have plans to open up more, but it's always been our business model to go bring the big city show to smaller cities and towns and stuff like that. Not really big cities, but like, the rural, more suburbs.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always been our business model.
And are you going to continue to do stand up yourself, or do you find you're doing less and less, or?
Brendan got this on documented. Like, our shows got too big for me. I mean, I can still perform, but to flip the switch, like you said, and be funny on your own show, whether it's Brendan hosting or James Mattern, I kind of just took a step back and let the professionals handle it. I enjoy going up and hosting every once in a while, but I'm phasing myself out.
Right. I know. I mean, it's natural. I mean, you can't, you almost physically can't do it. Brendan, how do you like emceeing? Because it is the hardest job. Somehow between the 80s and the 90s, the MC went from the top person, almost like the star, and the most paid, from what I've heard from all the comics that were comics in the 70s and 80s, to sort of the driver, the person,
right,
the less money. So how do you feel about it? It's the hardest, the absolute hard. They're going up there, there's cold, you don't know what mood everybody's in, and you have to basically, what Tommy Koenig taught us was herd the audience. But you got to get it so that those people feel like they all came in one car. How are you liking that?
That's so true. And so it's good and bad. Like it's great for me because any opportunity I have to get on stage, I'm like, yeah, like this is great. And luckily, Joel with the club, the club is a ton of fun to MC, just because there's always a lot of people there, and with bigger crowds it's easier, and Joel gets all of these great people, so that's a lot of fun. But it's hard. I prefer to get up there and just kind of do my jokes and things like that, but like it's been a really great experience because I get to learn from guys like a James Mattern, where exactly like you said, it's not just getting up there and just doing the jokes that you want to do. Like, you have to herd everybody in. You got to get the energy right. If it's low energy, and you got to make sure you're introducing everybody, you're timing people. It's a lot more than just getting up there and doing your jokes. So it's more challenging. I like the challenge because I just want to get better as a comedian, and I love any opportunity I have to get on stage. But yeah, I mean, hosting's really difficult. At Joel's, it's a lot of fun, especially because Joel has me there all the time, so I know the audience as well. I know what the vibe is like. But doing it elsewhere, sometimes you don't know what you're walking into. You might be, when you're going up there cold sometimes. I mean, like Joel said, like I think part of the reason why Joel has kind of stepped, I mean, I can't even imagine when you're producing and then you got to host, and it's just so much to think about. So it's tough. I love it just because I just want to get on stage. But at Joel's, it's fun because it's a big crowd and there's great people.
And you really sharpen your improv skills because you tend to do more crowd work. And, you know, you could say whatever you want. You have no idea what the person's going to respond. And it's about getting that, you know, giving that quick response. And we all, but I think more when you host, because you do more crowd work, that's when I think you get your nuggets, you know, and you do a lot of writing on stage because it's things that you're saying for the first time to somebody.
Yeah, you can mess around a little bit more. It
Yeah.
seems, you know, because you're doing more crowd work, and then all of a sudden you find something that you didn't think was going to be there, and then when that happens, you're like, oh, that was great. That was a lot of fun.
I don't know what happened, but it was one night because we have sand, but then there's sand on the stage. And I don't know if Brendan was like deep in thought, but he was featuring, so he wasn't even hosting that night. But I think you ended up kicking sand off the stage and ended up like kept hitting an audience member.
Yeah, so I was doing a bit about doing some bit where I like kick my leg, and I forgot it was like a muddy night. So like I had like there's sand like all over my shoe, and there was a crowd, like a 4 or 5 drunk women in the front row that they would not shut up the entire show. They didn't even, so I do that and like notice like dirt goes flying off my shoe, and it looks like it hits the girl like right in the face. And so my initial reaction is like, oh my God, I think I just kicked dirt. And they're like eating, they're drinking White Claws. I realized she doesn't even notice that this happens. Like she has no idea that I potentially just kicked dirt in her food. And as she's talking, because she's talking to her friend the whole time. So I'm like commentating on the fact that I'm like, holy I just kicked dirt, possibly dog shit, into this girl's lap. And she has no idea I'm even talking to her. And then the crowd is like they're laughing even harder because this girl has no idea I'm even talking to her. I'm like, it could not be more direct. And then it turned into like this great, I got a great clip out of it, and I like put it up on Instagram, and like it just turned out to that kind of made the set. Like the crowd had so much fun with it.
Yeah, and then they didn't even care about the fact that you made a video out of it. The friend that gathered that whole group, they were like, "Oh my God, look! They posted the video." Like she was so happy that they got the video posted, not mad that they were on Instagram. They was like, "Oh my."
Yeah,
and
they love it.
The other lesson, Brendan, because you're very young, so I wanted to listen to Aunt Ellen. The other lesson, when women are speaking, we're in a zone. We're in a zone.
Yeah.
Pay attention to you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's all about us.
Yeah, even if it's at a comedy club when you're not supposed to be speaking. That's definitely the rule.
That's awesome. And I'm very excited to watch the progression of your career. You just, you know, Joel is a great teacher. You're around so many, I mean, the list is, everybody that comes is so impressive. Everybody brings their own take. Nikki Glazer, I love everybody. And you're talking about James, by the way. I wouldn't want to gloss over that. James is everything that you said in the documentary. He is a great MC. He's also a great guy. He makes you feel good. I watched him, and that's really important. And then that's something. I mean, you clearly you seem like a nice person, and you want that. You know, you want you're the host. It's like it's like if somebody comes to your house, right? You're gonna offer them, you know, you're gonna offer them food, you're gonna offer them a drink, you're gonna have them sit down. It's like the same thing. You know, you're bringing them into it's like you're bringing them into your home. So but you're gonna get to watch, you know, you're watching a lot of really a lot of real greats. And listen, no matter I think how many years we do this, you know, you're always in awe. You know, you're always in awe of you know, people that you admire. What is, Brendan? I want to ask, like, do you sort of like, what are you talking about now? Like, do you sort of have a theme at all? Is it which obviously will evolve over time. I mean, I was single, now I'm married, and you know, and older. So it evolves. It totally evolves. But what are you finding is like, you know, fun to talk about?
Yeah, that has been kind of cool to figure out, because I'm still figuring it out, obviously. But I have started to notice, like, I'm like, I guess I've been doing it like 3.5, maybe, you know, coming up on 4 years now. And when I started, it was a lot about just like I was I was single at the time. I have a girlfriend now. Most of the stuff I talk about is just me being a dumbass and just stupid things that I do, I guess. But now it's like I'm noticing a lot of the stuff that I wrote when I first started. I'm getting so sick of that I'm like, I gotta shed, which I guess is good growth to have, because I'm realizing that I'm like, man, a lot of this is dog shit that I thought was my best bits the first couple of years. And now it's a lot more, I do feel like I'm growing a little bit. I'm just talking more about, my girlfriend, we just got a new puppy, moving in together. And then just, I'm still a dumbass. So still a lot of stuff that, it just happens to me in my everyday life. So I'm feeling like I'm shedding some of the initial stuff that I talked about, which I thought at the time was like, I'm like, oh my, this is A+ material. And now I'm looking back like, ugh, I don't want to do this anymore. I got to start talking about new stuff.
I mean, that is so natural. And I think that that's great. I also, and most of us, we write as our life changes, we write about our life changes. There are some, I've seen some comics, they seem to have like a very set act. They talk, I mean, I won't mention any names. I know someone that's been married for 25 years. They talk about being single. I don't know how they do that exactly. Whatever works. I'm not putting you down. Hey, if it worked for you, people, and if people laugh, who am I to, I'm not going to criticize, that's for sure. But I think that's great. And you'll listen, that this is never ending. And that's the actually exciting part about being an artist. That's the good news, is that, it's always changing and you're always doing something different. If not, then, you would have been in pharmaceutical sales or an accountant. And that's,
Right.
you know what I mean? So change is good. I got to ask you guys one thing, and then want to talk about the documentary and where we're going with that. The PC cancel culture. What are you guys finding out there in the wild? How are you finding it? And and the political sort of atmosphere and the sensitivity around that.
Brandon, you want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's starting to, I feel like it was really bad. Like the past couple of years, it was really bad. I do feel like it's starting to die down a little. I think people are just starting to get sick of it. And it seems like those things are kind of cyclical, but it still happens. I mean, it doesn't happen as much in person at live, because everyone is, a big talker on the internet. And I hate to see that. I mean, it's happening a lot in our business in comedy, of other comedians canceling or trying to cancel other comedians, which that to me is it's just so shitty to think that, not everybody, like we're all growing. We're all, we've all made mistakes in the past. And it's just so hypocritical, because you're seeing people trying to cancel other people, and then people are digging up stuff about them, and then they're getting canceled and we're canceling each other. So that's weird. And I feel like because that's happening, like hopefully people are going to start to realize that, I don't know, it's just very hypocritical. And we, shouldn't necessarily be trying to just virtue signal and say like, hey, this is the right opinion to have. Like, look at how good of a person I am. You see that a lot on the internet. You occasionally will get, somebody who goes to a comedy show for some reason that doesn't understand that you're joking. I mean, obviously it's got to be funny,
Right.
At a certain level of, comedy, if you're going to an open mic show and you're going to see people say some wild stuff that's offensive, but it's probably more offensive just because it's not funny yet. When you go to a real show, I feel like, you don't get that as much, because most of the people there get the context of what it is, but you still do see some audience members, like I'm fairly clean, and I've gotten it a couple of times of people being like, he swore on stage. I'm like, it's a fucking comedy show. Like, what do you think you're going to see? So it's it's not great. It's annoying. I feel like it's hopefully going to die out a little bit, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, same thing. One specific example that actually happened recently, and Brendan was hosting that night. We had Tim Dillon here, and we had 6 shows, and it was the last night on Sunday night, the 6th. And Ellen, you know, just from being on stage, you're not psychic, but you're empathic, where like you can read an audience, read a room, and you kind of know generally what's on someone's mind or how they're reacting with their body language and how, you know, they're just acting at the show as an audience member. So Tim had been joking around, you know, heavy set, you know, not in the best shape. He goes on stage and he asked me for permission to smoke. And he goes and smokes a cigarette through like the mask. And he's like, you know, if you're a nurse, you know, don't, you know, make sure you're a hero, come up here and save me. And he just, you know, he makes jokes about being a nurse. And at the end of the show, this couple wasn't laughing. And he goes, oh, did you guys not enjoy the show? He's literally about to wrap up. And she goes, I'm a fucking nurse. And he was like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, you know, by the way, these are all jokes. And she goes, yeah, but I've witnessed a lot of people in the last year dying. And he goes, well, I'm sorry that you had to actually work, you know, in the last, and like, it just, he went back and forth, but he said, you have to remember that these are all jokes. And he joked around about everything. And he talked about cancel culture, and he talked about small businesses and our government. And he goes, he made fun of all of it. He goes, people have died because of that. He goes, people have died because of every reason this year. And then at the end, I haven't seen someone that I saw, my first comedy show ever, I saw George Carlin at the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville, and he killed for an hour. And he literally walked off the stage by going, if there is a God, said this in the Bible Belt, let him strike me dead with lightning right now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, see, nothing. And like 1,500 people end up leaving. And Tim Dillon that night walks on and goes, by the way, I was joking about everything tonight except for the nurse stuff. Thank you so much. I'm Tim Dillon. Walks off. I was like, oh my God. And so within a day, we get this fake Facebook, Instagram account called Nurse Jackie that makes an Instagram and tags all the club and every media outlet in Philadelphia, hashtag cancel Tim Dillon, everything that Brendan just said, and trying to get us in trouble. And don't you know, I'm at another show 5 days later, and I get a call from the husband, and he said, he was like, listen, you know, I think you owe my wife an apology. And I said, you know, listen, she tried to upstage Tim. And I learned this from one of the other guys I manage is Shuli Egar, who used to be a writer and producer for Howard Stern. And when people used to come to shows, he would tell me it's either the husband or the wife, rarely both, that are Stern fans, and one gets dragged. So I go, and I asked the husband the question. He goes, yeah, I'm the Tim Dillon fan, and my wife ended up coming with me. And I'm like, what do you want? Do you want free tickets? What are you trying to get out of me? He goes, I need an apology to my wife, and you should buy her and her ICU nurses lunch. And I said, okay. I said, how about an apology from her? She's trying to hurt my business. She created a fake Instagram account and tagged all the media outlets trying to get me shut down and Tim Dillon canceled. And he goes, I don't know what you're talking about. I go, well, someone on the line does, because all of those posts have now been deleted since I just mentioned that. So isn't it ironic that you don't know what I'm talking about, but someone just deleted it? And I just, like he said, you telephone and keyboard tough guys, but when you call them out on the carpet, all of a sudden it's just, you know, it goes away. It's
so crazy. And like you said, like Tim during the show, I mean, first of all, you're going to a Tim Dillon show, what are you expecting? But he said so clearly, he's like, I made fun of the left, the right, myself. He's like, I'm not. And he was like, the reason that it's funny is because what I'm saying is ridiculous. It's obviously not true. It's so extreme. So he's like, if I was saying just normal facts, then it's not funny. Like a joke is because I'm saying ridiculous. Like clearly I don't believe, you know, the jokes that I'm saying about nurses. It's crazy. That's why it's funny. And I mean, he couldn't have ended that set any better. I mean, he walked off, dropped the mic, and it was great.
Well, you know, there's so many things. One is people don't understand that we have more of the power since we do have the mic. Number two, you need to carry around the Constitution. It's called free speech. We're still allowed to do it. And like you guys were saying, it's a comedy show. So if you can't handle anything, don't go. There are plenty of people that want to go if you're going to be that sensitive. And even if you get inside, like even if she was insulted, it's fine. You know, she could feel the way she feels, but to just, again, start a whole thing about it. And then and then trying to cancel you. That's beyond. She can hate you. She can think you're not funny, all that kind of stuff. She can tell her friends, like, oh, I saw this guy. But to go and to take it 9 steps further and to do all that is unacceptable. And this apology thing, I'll just tell you a very, very quick story that happened to me about 5 or 6 years ago. I was in Long Island and did a show. It was a fundraiser. And I said, I took the Long Island Railroad out, and I said something about people that sleep on the train. And it fascinates me because I can never sleep on the train because I'm a paranoid person. I'm afraid that I would fall asleep and I'd wind up in a basement in Wyandanch. That was the joke, right? And then Long Island people love Long Island jokes. So any reference to Long Island, it gets a laugh.
Oh my God, Ronkonkoma.
Exactly. Well, that's where I was. I was in Ronkonkoma. That's right. And Ronkonkoma is the last train stop on the train, and Wyandanch was the stop before. And that's why I thought about Wyandanch. Plus, you know how we are. We're wordsmiths, so we're like, that's a funny word, Wyandanch. It's like, what the hell, right? So anyway. So I had a great set, fun crowd, laughed, this and that, got off, I was getting high fives and everything. As a matter of fact, my husband came with to gig with me, and he was actually out in the car listening to a podcast because he doesn't want to hear me. And so anyway, I come out, I'm talking to one of the comics, I'm starting to wrap up, and the host comes out and goes, Ellen, there's a woman in there and she's really mad. Long story short, it was an African-American woman. Wyandanch came out. She said, what I said was racist. I go, what? I do not do any, my stuff is self-deprecation, Greek, husband, this and that.
Yeah.
I can work, I didn't work squeaky clean that night, but I can work squeaky clean. I do a lot of churches, all of that. I know the drill. And I know also what I'm comfortable in doing, and I just want to make people laugh. I'm a people pleaser. So I'm like, what? Anyway, she comes up barreling out. She was incensed. And she said, you blah, blah, blah. And she goes, Wyandanch. And I go, yeah. She goes, and so then somebody had to inform me that it was African-American. I go, so I'm still not, I know what I said, but like, that's the connection. It was insane. She was insane. I should go in and apologize to her daughter. Anyway, I called my husband. I go, I'm getting out of here. I didn't want a confrontation. I wouldn't want to do that. Not because I was afraid to talk to her. I just didn't want a whole scene. So I left. Next day, the guy that produced it was not there. He's a friend of mine, very nice. He's like, she's going to go to the newspaper. She's going to go this, she's going to go that. I'm like, God. And he wanted me to write a letter of apology. And one of my sisters is a lawyer. So I called her up and she was like, she goes, you can say whatever you want. There's no, and so I said, what if she goes to the news? She goes, well, what if she does? There's nothing you could do about it. People are crazy. Anyway, I don't know what he wound up doing. He apologized. He gave her tickets, all this stuff. It was ridiculous. But I was so happy. I stood my ground. I did apologize that night. I said, I'm sorry your daughter was insulted. And I said, do you want me to go talk to her? I go, you got the wrong person, and she, no. And I don't know what again, it's like, what do you want from me? So we just have to stand our ground. These are the jokes. I'm sorry you didn't have a good time. That was not my intention. And that's it. End of story. And it's just like, we gotta take a stance. So now I use it as a joke when I go out to Long Island, and if I say it and I go and I did that joke, and Al Sharpton showed up at my door the next day. But anyway, so it's just so.
Oh boy,
that's this thing. It's like people, for some reason, like the people that do that for some reason take out the intention, where it's like, do you really think that I was trying to hurt you? Or and if you do take it a certain way, hey, like, I'm sorry that you took it that way, but like, clearly my intention was not to hurt you or offend you. And then people taking that extra step to, I'm going to the pay, like, it's like people that write Yelp reviews. It's like, if I go to a place and I don't like the food, I just go, man, well, that sucked, and then you just leave. Like, to take the time to go, I'm gonna, burn this business down and make sure everything else is ruined because you had a bad experience. It's like, it's just ridiculous.
Right. Well, anyway, I'm glad we're all, you got to put your stake in the stand. So tell us about the documentary and where people can find it, or what you're going to, where is it going? I mean, it's fantastic. I was going to say in theaters, but anyway, I don't know if we're doing that right now.
We did a viewing, premiered it at Inside the Dome.
Great.
At Soul Joel's, and then we this past Sunday we did it at the Harbor Square Theater in Stone Harbor. But now later tonight, we're releasing it on YouTube on Soul Joel TV, and we're putting it out there, and we're accepting Venmo tips. So just to take donations, and it all goes to a good cause. Brendan Donegan for working so hard on this.
Be a starving comedian for $2 a day.
It's like you could sponsor a comedian for $2 a day. Exactly.
Right, they'll take it. I encourage everybody to watch the documentary. It's fascinating from a business perspective. It's funny. So many talented people on there. It's a great story. It's a great entrepreneurial story. Brendan, tell us all your social media, where people can follow you specifically.
Yeah, sure. Instagram, Brendan Donegan Comedy, Facebook, Brendan Donegan, Twitter, B_Donegan. That's all my social media.
All right, good. No TikTok. No, there's all this stuff that pops up. I'm like, I'm not doing Clubhouse. I gotta end it someplace.
Not starting over all over again.
Yeah, right.
Clubhouse, exactly. I don't understand yet. I have not. I did just get on TikTok. I'm messing around with it, just making videos. I think my name's just Brendan Donegan on there, but I did just get on there. So sure, follow me on TikTok. I got like 60 followers.
Oh, okay. Listen, sometimes it's just like you're on social media so much. It's like, I just want to write a joke. I just want to write a joke. And as far as, and what you guys said before too, about social media and stuff, I post shows, I post something funny, I keep it light. I don't post my sticker, this, that. I want nothing to do with it. You want to have a conversation? That's fine, but I'm with you.
Who you voted for and whether you got vaccinated? You don't do that?
Right. It's like, if I didn't put a sticker out, does that mean I voted? It's like if a tree falls in the woods, does that mean, does it make a sound? I mean, it's the same.
Yeah.
Now
it's like, how will people know you're a good person unless you post that you got vaccinated?
The Band-Aid. Oh my God. Right. All right. Anyway, Joel, tell us where you go. I've had so much fun.
No, I love it. At SJP Comedy is all my social media, and then just go to souljoels.com. SOULJOELS.com.
That's great. I love that you entrepreneurial spirit, and it's amazing. What you've done is amazing. I support you, whatever I can do to help you. It's great. If you ever do a Greek show, just let me know. And Brendan, we are going to look out for you. And everybody go check it out. And listen, if you live in New York City, it's a great thing. It's not that far, right? 2 hours, an hour and a half.
It's 2 hours door to door from here to Gotham. Yep.
Here to Gotham. Okay, great. All right, great. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. I'm Ellen Karis. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Greek Chick Comic. Ellen Karis, Facebook's Greek Goddess Comedy, EllenKaris.com, EllenKaris. Until next time, thank you. Bye.